Debt. Usually when people hear that word, they think money. But the older we get, the more we realize some of the biggest debts you'll ever carry have nothing to do with money at all. When we broke ground on our home, there were people who showed up every single time we needed help. Long days, equipment, time, and stress. And somehow, they never once asked for anything in return. So this build is our attempt at paying back the debt we probably never actually could.
There's a certain kind of person everyone hopes to have in their corner. For us, that's Garrett, our brother-in-law that just might be the hardest working fellow we know. He has been one of the best people to have while building the shop and house. He knows his shit, works hard, and accepts a simple meal as payment. Now, in all seriousness, we probably cannot pay him back for everything he has done for us and our family, but we are going to try with this custom table for his parents. You see, they lended us all of their equipment to start and finish the house. They were the people that gave me my very first job, and they let us put their son to work day in and day out. If you are questioning why we are building a table for his parents instead of the man himself, well, that's because we have already built him a custom piece, a one-of-a-kind river bar for his basement. It was one of our first videos, so go ahead and check it out after this one. Excuse the self-advertisement, because all we're trying to express in this video is that sometimes thank yous just aren't enough.
At this point, milling lumber is honestly just second nature to us, and that's why we don't spend a ton of time talking about it in our videos anymore, because most of the time it's just part of the process. But every once in a while, something simple reminds you really quickly not to get too comfortable. Before starting this build, we decided to rotate the blades in our planer, and apparently didn't get everything seated exactly right, which led to some pretty nasty snipe and uneven planing. So naturally, instead of building this table, we had to tear back into our planer. But eventually, we got everything dialed back in and started getting clean passes, and finally got back to turning a rough pile of cherry into something actually worthy of the people it was for. Once we finally got the milling sorted out, it was time to make this thing actually look like a table. We had a lot of creative freedoms on this one: wood choice, the color, leg design, and pretty much everything in between, which sounds great and all, until you realize there's nobody to blame it on if it turns out ugly. And maybe that mattered more on this build, because this table was basically our way of saying thank you.
Hi. So, I'm on to cleaning up the cherry. It was our first time ever using cherry, and probably, honestly, first time using a fruit-bearing tree. So, a little complaint with it. Got a lot of these like sap or gum or resin pockets in it, and you'll have like super clean boards like this, and then like your next one's that. So, little critique there. It's pretty, not necessarily our style. Let us know down below if maybe we just got not as select cherry as others, as well as your experiences with it. I just fixed a crack, and I have a check to fix on that side. Hopefully, nothing else comes of that. And Logan's in the background. Logan, what have you been up to?
Speaking of letting us know, well, go watch our Make-A-Wish build. It'll be coming out soon, and let us know what you think of that. You know what I mean?
Pretty good video.
Lots of builds coming out.
A lot of them.
Lots of footage, lots of videos,
A lot of work.
lots of kingcraft.
Every build is bound to have flaws and setbacks. We just showed you the first one of this build earlier. It's how you overcome those challenges where you really get to see growth and progress. Dominoing and gluing up aren't the funnest parts of building. Neither is sanding or messing it up, but it's necessary steps to get to a good product. The small details that show up in every job, trade, or hobby you have It shows you are bound to mess it up sometimes, and that's just fine. Those are the kind of lessons working with Garrett and his family taught me pretty early on. Showing up, working hard, listening more than you talk, and doing the job right the first time. And honestly, yeah, it was fun. But when I was there, I wasn't treated like some kid tagging along. I was another set of hands. Which also meant I got just as much crap thrown at me as everybody else did. But that came with something important too. Respect. Even being the youngest guy there. One thing we ran into on this build was a pretty decent crack on one of the boards in the tabletop. Now we could have just tried to hide it or fill it with epoxy, but instead we decided to use splines on it. We didn't do it for the looks, we actually did this on the underside, because we've never done splines before, and we are not good at it. Nonetheless, we wanted the long-term holding power and reinforcement in the boards to keep everything stable. And honestly, it was probably the most respectful thing to do for the table, the piece, and the clients as well. Not pretending the flaws don't exist, just making them stronger.
Everybody, clap your hands. You're supposed to clap. He didn't think that whenever you go to 4 ounces and then add 2 ounces on top of it, that's 2 to 1, and you missed it. He didn't record it for some reason. That's so getting edited out. Yeah.
Here we are going back to an old process of wood bleaching. A fairly simple task, but we have never done it on cherry before, and really didn't know how the whole table would turn out. Between the wood tannins, grain, and resin pockets, it was quite a stressful task.
While the bleach worked its magic over the next 24 hours, we went on to working on the table base. And like we said earlier, we had creative freedom of this build, which isn't really as perfect as it sounds, especially whenever you get answers like this from Garrett. Nice. Yeah, I like that. Or when you send him color samples and all he says is, yeah. And so yeah, as Tanner put it earlier, Garrett might be one of the hardest working fellas we know. But if there's one thing he's just freaking god-awful at, it is 100% gotta be texting. And not to run off on a total tangent here, but I feel obligated to say it. Garrett's been in our family since 2013, and since that time, he's received one birthday text from me year after year and has yet to reply. Now, somewhere in the middle of all this, we decided the table could survive without us for just one night. And honestly, these are the moments we want to start including more of going forward. Because KinCraft has never really just been about woodworking. It's about building stuff, having fun, and the memories we can make while doing it. And with the build actually going relatively smooth, it was time to take a night for ourselves. So off to the Dome of America Center, as Zach Bryan kicked off his With Heaven on tour. And if you know us at all, you already know there was no chance we were missing one of his concerts. We've seen him live in 2022, 2024, and now 2026, watching his stage grow every single time, which is just our reminder that we needed that huge acts start small and slowly grow over time. And so I want to personally invite you to become a part of our KinCraft journey. As we grow as craftsmen, content creators, and really just as brothers, we want you to be a part of it with us. So it would really mean the world to us if you hit subscribe.
Eventually though, the concert was over and we still had a table to finish. And honestly, the base was probably the part we stressed over the most. After going back and forth on leg designs, sending a mix of AI, Pinterest, and other content creators' builds as inspiration, we landed on this almost X-style leg, similar to a lot of our previous builds that we did off camera. But instead of meeting perfectly in the middle with 45-degree angles, it lands more like a K. Overall, we wanted a more modernized farmhouse-style table like we've done in the past, so we added heavy roundovers to all corners of this base. We then cleaned up the excess glue to save ourselves the hassle later. From there, we were moving on to cutting and installing the angled rounders of the base. Since one side has such a steep angle, we made a quick jig for the table saw using some pre-finished plywood and CA glue, which worked like a charm and was much safer than any other idea ran by each other. And for the shallower pieces, the table saw sled worked like a charm. When we cut the angled pieces to size, we really just guessed and hoped the proportions and angles would lay out just fine. With the angles touching on both sides, we used brad nails and wood glue to fasten them together. I know what you're thinking. Why add brad nails to this piece when there are such better options, like dominoes, dowels, or just plain glue and time? What we haven't told you is that this base is being stained black to contrast the lighter top, meaning the little bit of wood fill that we will have to do will be hidden. As well as the nails act as a clamp to hold these pieces together so we could build the whole base in one day, saving us time in the long run. Which you'll get to see later on why that was so important. But for right now, just 2 brad nails, top and bottom, and a little bit of prayers. For the heavy roundovers, I think we used every single roundover bit in our box. I'm talking 1/8, 1/4, 5/16, 3/8, and all the way up to a half. And another thing to note is how we pre-rounded over certain spots where once constructed, we would have had no way to get a router in. And with a table that symbolizes so much more, taking that little bit of time to pre-plan and a little extra work to make a more elegant piece, it was worth it. Trust us, we have made mistakes before that have cost us hours in rebuilding or sanding just to get those roundovers done. But for those acute and obtuse angles where the K meets, we got down and dirty with some hand tools on them.
Now, the one thing Garrett was fairly adamant on was that he wanted the top to have some sort of an inlay. Again, he wasn't specific here, he kind of just said run with it. And so there's countless ways that you could go about it, but we opted into an option that we've actually done in the past, where we simply just used our track saw and cut dados into the top. Its thin 3/32 kerf adds the perfect detail that does not take away from the top itself, but instead enhances it just that much more. And that is so long as everything goes to plan. A few years back, before we were ever in the world of content creation, we were commissioned with this 10-foot by 4-foot dining set. And at that time, it being our largest build to date, again, a similar thing happened where the client inquired about inlays. We gave them a handful of options and sent pictures back and forth and eventually settled on this exact style here. And that was simply because we were able to take the epoxy and make it match their kitchen appliance colors, which was a bronzy, earthy tone. And surprisingly enough, having never done anything like that prior, it somehow worked out for us. So having that 100% success rate, we really thought, what could go wrong here doing it again? So let's give this epoxy the next 24 hours to cure while we jump onto staining the base.
To stain the base, we are using General Finishes Black Stain. We've used it in the past and had good finished products with it. A simple wipe on, wipe off process, and you're left with an elegant base that is so much more than a new addition to our portfolio. It was the moment we knew this build was coming to a close sooner than we expected. And it's got me thinking, we obsessed over so many little details within this build. The heavy roundovers, inlay, the base overall. None of it was requested or demanded by the client. But when one family has helped you in so many ways for multiple years, all those details start to matter a little more. With commission builds, we have a starting and ending point, but the road connecting the two is rarely straight. But it's those small details that define any piece of furniture in the end. And this is typically the point we realize these builds are more than builds. They're reminders as to why we started in the first place and why we care so much about the work coming out of this shop. Which made what happened next hurt a little more than normal. And if you've done enough projects before, you probably know where this story is about to go.
Well, we are nearly, I'd say what, 90% of the way done?
Yeah.
85? Well, back down to 50 now, actually. We've had a little bit of an issue. We've done this in the past with this inlay. We've had good results from it. It's a nice, crisp, clean line. Unless the epoxy bleeds into your end grain like it has ours. And so no matter how much we're trying to sand, and honestly, no matter how much we do sand, the end result's gonna be the same where there's gonna be these bleed lines. And so as much as we don't want to start over, we're gonna have to completely route these back out and do epoxy again.
Close.
Close. No epoxy this go around. Yeah, so this is what we should have done the first go around. We should have found a nice dark contrasting wood like walnut to be our inlay. So now we're gonna go ahead and cut it out using the best method that I could come up with to make it quick and easy. Probably not a good idea.
Could go horribly wrong in what we're about to do.
It's probably gonna, so just set it up here for now and flip.
Did
You ready? Ready to flip?
Fingies. Did somebody call 911? Holy shit!
You ready?
Yeah. Zoom it on the face there.
Go ahead and get what you call it on.
What?
Dust.
Dude, my fucking heart.
You want me on that side or you want this side?
I'll take that side.
I
Then
mean,
I'll
you got
loop
a big
around.
job here.
Huh?
You got a big job.
Yeah, hold. It's a lot of weight for a little guy to hold. Oh, this is sketchy as shit.
Yeah. It's not gonna work that way. It might work cross the other way, but
Track it is.
well, it looks like we're sitting about 50-50 with these epoxy inlays right now. And because of that, my original plan was pretty simple. Throw a dado stack in the table saw, make one quick pass, fix the problem, and just move on like it never happened. But once we actually got the top over to the saw, we realized very quickly that there was just way too many variables to risk making things even worse. So instead, we slowed down. We decided to use our track saw, lots of careful curve cuts, cleaning things up by hand, and honestly, just taking our time to make the right decision instead of the fastest one here. And truthfully, that's something this build reminded us of more than once. And if there's something two young craftsmen can pass along to you, it's this. It's real easy to rush towards fixes when things stop going the way you planned. But when the projects actually mean something, slowing down usually matters a whole lot more than speeding up. So instead of trying to hide the problem, we actually decided to lean into it. And honestly, I think the walnut ended up giving the table way more character than that epoxy ever could have.
With the final touches going on at this table, we wanted to take a second to thank the people who made this project possible without probably ever realizing it. To Garrett's parents, thank you for lending us equipment when we needed it the most, teaching myself what hard work really looks like, and trusting us enough to build something that will now live inside your home. And honestly, this build reminded us of something we probably should think about more often. The people who shape your life the most usually aren't the ones asking for recognition. So if you've got a Garrett in your life, somebody who shows up, works hard, and expects nothing in return, maybe take the time to thank him today. And to those of you who stuck around and supported us through all of this, thank you too. We're glad you're here, and we'll catch you in the next one.